Now, meanwhile, the United States announced a $5 million reward for a Chinese businessman accused of procuring missile parts to Iran. The U.S. State Department asked for information which could lead to the arrest of Fangwei, also known as Karl Lee. In the past, Lee was already on U.S. blacklist for alleged involvement in supplying Iran's ballistic missile program. I believe we have a guest on the line right now with us on this topic. Joining us live from London is Jonathan Sacerdoti, political commentator and Middle East analyst. Jonathan, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So what kind of message do you think the United States is sending, and who's the primary target of this message?
Well, the U.S. has a hard job to do. Since the deal was struck with Iran in November to give some sanction relief in return for small movement concerning Iran's nuclear weapons development program, critics have accused the Obama administration of being weak. Indeed, Kerry's failure to even achieve his limited goal in Syria of removing chemical weapons from the ongoing war there, as well as his failure to make any progress at all in the talks between Israelis and Palestinians, has shown the administration's foreign policy to be something of a mess. So there is some desire to at least be able to appear strong on Iran, especially as the US's closest ally in the Middle East, Israel, has strongly criticized the negotiations deal with Iran and continues to disapprove of any sanctions easing. So this can be read, at least in part, as a sign to those criticisms, as some sort of answer to those criticisms. But it might also be intended to have some genuine bite in lieu of any credible military threat. And the hope on the part of the Americans might be that it bolsters their position as they discuss with Iran that nuclear program.
And what about this fact that it's sanctioning UAE companies now? Has that happened before?
Well, in May last year, David Cohen, U.S. Undersecretary for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence, told the Senate committee that the Treasury Department planned to focus increasingly on Iran's use of non-bank financial institutions such as exchange houses and money services businesses. And by July, those economic sanctions were imposed on Iran by the U.S., and that had a major impact on the UAE businesses as they affect the UAE by restricting bank transactions in Iranian currency and sales of gold to Iran and the like. So the sanctions significantly impacted metals traders, including gold dealers, as they expanded the scope of potential activities that could be subject to penalty. So Dubai has felt the effects of sanctions before.
So how would you describe current relations between the Arab Emirates and Iran at this moment? Can they be described as strategic partners?
Relations are certainly important to both sides. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif visited Abu Dhabi and the Emirate of Dubai on the 15th of April. That was perhaps the most noticeable part of the diplomatic activity between the two. He took part in the second Iranian-UAE Joint High Commission and met with his Emirati counterpart Abdullah bin Zayed, as well as with the Prime Minister Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, to whom he delivered an official invitation from President Hassan Rouhani to visit Tehran. Back in December, similar invitation was extended to UAE President Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan. So there's been this sort of activity, and last November, Abdullah bin Zayed, the UAE's foreign minister, visited Tehran and described Iran as a strategic partner, as you say, noting that the UAE-Iranian relationship was not limited to trade and economic affairs, but transcended, he said, those to include all cultural common bonds. So these sorts of increased relations do show that there is some sort of strategic partnership being developed. And, of course, both sides would benefit greatly if the sanctions on Iran were eventually lifted. The Emirati ports, particularly Dubai, would act as a gateway between Iran and the rest of the world. Add to that the fact that around 400,000 Iranians live in the UAE, and you can understand how these sorts of strong relationships might be something that are desirable on both sides. In some ways, the US-led policy of diplomatic engagement with Iran and the weakening of sanctions has encouraged Dubai to court better strategic relations with Iran.
All right, thank you very much. Jonathan Sacerdoti, political commentator and Middle East analyst, was joining us live here on Radio VR from London.